let's talk about the one player and the one part of Ohio State and Oregon to watch for that I think is going to have the biggest impact in who wins and loses this game. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time or 1,000th time watching the #1 college football show and you have not subscribed, please take a moment, click the button, ring the bell so you don't miss any of the segments that we upload here, because we talk college football 24/7, 365 days a year. And I really enjoy this time of the year. I love it when we are absolutely positively playing for championships and there are real personal stakes as well as win and loss stakes at the center of each of these games. As many of you know, it is the first time that we've ever had the 12-team playoff format, and there have been some things that we've liked, right? Like the home games are undefeated. Really outstanding stuff for us there. However, we don't really like the way that the seeding is done now that we've seen how the highest ranked conference champions has led to things like Boise State getting the 3 seed, leaving teams like Texas and Ohio State trying to play into the quarterfinals. And this time it worked out, but you would like to see that, I think, a bit differently, where you're just ranking those teams that you think are the best as opposed to the ones that are highest ranked conference champions, and get something like a little bit more incentive there. As it stands, though, this format did give us the game I think many of us wanted to see once again after its first iteration revealed a 32-31 win for Oregon against Ohio State, where both offenses played really, really well. 2 300-yard passers, a couple of guys that had over 100 yards receiving on both ends, and frankly, forced the Ohio State defense to take a hard look at itself and re-engineer how it wanted to play defense. And a lot of that has to do with Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke got absolutely positively torched by Oregon, particularly Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart. When they were lined up on him, they were feasting. Between those two guys, 7 catches, 224 yards over the top of Denzel Burke's dead body. Okay, that can't stand, right? It also can't stand that Denzel Burke had not given up more than 74 yards receiving to anybody before that game. As a matter of fact, it's the reason he got a first-round grade last year, but chose to come back because, like the rest of the Ohio State players, he ain't won nothing. He wanted a set of gold pants. He's not going to get them. He wanted a Big Ten championship. He's not going to get it. Now he has an opportunity to beat the Big Ten champion and move one step closer to playing for a national championship. But we've seen what Denzel Burke is capable of, to say nothing of what Davis and Igbinosun has been capable of as well, and Jordan Hancock in the slot cornerback. So what do they do, and what did they do to try to help Denzel Burke on the outside, but also to play more to their strengths? They've gone from much more of a read and react, we're going to let our athletes run in space, to we're going to dictate a pace kind of defense. When Jim Knowles had this thing going at Oklahoma State, what got him the job at Ohio State 2018-2021, is they could get into the backfield and they could stop people there. I mean, we're talking about a team that had 56 sacks in 2021, 117 tackles for loss. They were in your face all the time. How were they able to do that? They were blitzing. They were blitzing, and they were bringing down their best tackling safety into the box and saying, okay, we're going to come after you. Do you have a quarterback that can get rid of the football before we get to him? And the answer was no. You've seen this change a bit with Caleb Downs, where they're moving him all over. When he's down in the box, you've got a really great chance to let Cody Simon go to work on the inside to give those edge rushers those one-on-one matchups that they need. JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, do a little bit more stunting inside. Make your defense a little bit more complex post-snap to read, rather than giving the pre-snap read and then just going with that. A guy like Dylan Gabriel is going to pick that thing apart. And he did. His awareness is next to Peter Parker's. He sees it and he throws into it. He knows how to escape it. He knows what you want to do. And because he knows what you want to do, he knows where he's going to go with the football. There's always an answer. There's always an answer. There's always a solution, right? Sometimes that answer and solution is throwing the football away, but there's always an answer solution to taking a sack and throwing an interception. Dylan Gabriel understands that's good at it. So what else can you do to help Denzel Burke cover up against Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart? Well, you roll one of those safeties over the top, right? Whether it's Latham Ransom or Caleb Downs. And you are able to use Denzel Burke's strengths to your advantage. It's a dude that plays really well inside the first 10 yards of a play. If you get his hips turned, you can outfox him and you can run by him. These are things that I think Will Stein noticed immediately and things that they've been able to do particularly well. And when you're doing that, you have to remember that Jordan James can still bust you up. He had over 100 yards rushing in their last matchup. And it's an Ohio State defense that really hasn't had the best run defense until last couple of weeks, right? I'm really interested to see which run defense we get here, because this is not been a great run team in defense, 4.4 yards per carry. And I think they gave up something like 7.8 yards per carry in the second half against Oregon alone. When you're getting lined up faster, it's easier to get your assignments right. It's easier to know where you're going with the football. It's easier to identify the football. You got to identify the football and get rid of the misdirection and not follow the misdirection. You're going to make plays. You're going to make tackles. It's when they speed you up where you got a problem. You get sped up. The frequency in which your blitzers are going to get home, the misalignments, they're going to show themselves. If you're not aligned right, and I see that as a quarterback, I'm going straight at you, because center probably saw it. Right? If I know that this defense is supposed to be in a 7 technique and you're in a 9, well, guess where I'm going with the football? I'm going to go where that wedge is, right? If I have that in the bag, if I got that in the playbook. And I think I do if I'm Dylan Gabriel, who's been playing football forever. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's started over 60 games this year. And once again, you're going to identify your one-on-ones. If you get Denzel Burke matched up on Evan Stewart, you're probably going to go at him or try to rolls a motion away, right? You're probably going to jet away and make sure you got man out there. You got man out there, go after him. This is the opposite of what we were talking about against Jeremiah Smith and that Oregon secondary on Monday. But once again, I think it comes down to that player. If Denzel Burke can be the kind of guy that he showed himself to be last year at Ohio State, then Ohio State's going to stop that Oregon offense, and that Oregon defense gets an opportunity, that Ohio State defense gets an opportunity to eat. You get an opportunity to put pressure on, because once you get this team behind, they are going to just start throwing the football. They're not going to continue to hand the ball to Jordan James. You get them down by 10. But that's tall ass, because you need not just 1, but 2 stops, and then you need to go score points on those stops if you're the Ohio State offense, which is where we expect Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to continue to do what they did against Tennessee, which is tell Will Howard to throw the football to Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith, and then we'll hand the ball to Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. But this re-engineering of the defense that they performed after the Oregon loss, this surgery that just needed to happen, where they gave up 32 points and 496 yards of offense in one of the worst displays of defense from a Jim Knowles team in the last couple of years, That's the thing. That's the thing. You can do that. I don't see why you don't win the Rose Bowl. I realize that there are people that are telling me that Oregon is basically playing a home game at the Coliseum, and I'm like, at the Rose Bowl, Coliseum. And I'm not here for that. It's a Rose Bowl, dog. It might as well be Pac-12 versus Big Ten. It might as well be half and half. And Ohio State's got way more fans than you, and they will show up. I know this because I read the studies that have said so. They got 6.6 million people rooting for them, compared to the second best school, which is Penn State, 4.4 million people rooting for them. Either way, I'm going to watch it, and it's going to be great.